Happy Friday. Thanks for joining us here on 90s Plus. I'm Chris Bianchi. Today we got a special guest to discuss the Avalanche final game of the season. The Colorado Avalanche hockey team, of course, as they have got tied or one of the most best seasons on record going back to at least 2000, 2001. And AJ Haefele from the DNVR Avalanche podcast joins us, and from DNVR in general. AJ, you are a specialist in all things Colorado Avalanche. Want to get a bit of insight from you about the Avs and kind of start things off with the, I guess, obvious question. Is the Avalanche kind of struggling a fair bit? Their biggest losing streak since 2018, 2019. I know that was snapped back on Wednesday night, but how concerned are you heading into the playoffs at about the state of this team right now?
Not at all. If there are things that are going to cause me to lose sleep about their potential in the postseason, it's not going to be the results of a handful of meaningless games down the stretch in which they were playing with, we'll call it a compromised lineup. They were missing a couple of key guys, and we saw as soon as Devon Toews got back in the lineup, especially Devon Toews, the defense tightened the screws quite a bit, and they handled the St. Louis Blues a couple days ago pretty well. And I think that goes to show you that, hey, this team is capable of getting up for a game that it cares about. That was a game that mattered. That was a game that they felt was important. And so they treated it as such. Do you love that they necessarily have that attitude right now? Well, I mean, it's not your favorite, but you understand where they're coming from. It's a long season, and they've accomplished everything that they can reasonably accomplish up to this point, outside of a potential President's Trophy, which, look, this is a team that has not talked about it. Last season, they talked a lot about the President's Trophy. They had an attitude of, hey, we need that. We want that home ice advantage. They got that, and they blew it. So they aren't prioritizing it in the same way that they were last year. They are saying, hey, we think that this group can do something special. We're just trying to get to the playoffs as healthy as possible. And the way that they've kind of rotated in and out players from the lineup to maximize and prioritize health, they look like they're going to be among the healthiest teams going into the postseason of anybody, which, of course, knock on wood, anything can happen. But you do have to feel like, hey, the team is still trending upward, and that genuinely we have not seen the A lineup for this team post trade deadline for one single game yet. And if you put all of the pieces together in the way that they were brought in to work together, I don't know how you could feel anything but really strong optimism that the best is yet to come for this club.
Okay, that admittedly makes me feel a lot better as well. Any injuries in particular that had you concerned, or maybe anybody over that 4-game losing streak that you think the Avalanche really in particular missed over that time?
Yeah, I think not having Devon Toews really goes to show you, well, what a linchpin he is for the defense, because look, Bowen Byram is very, very good already as a young player, but we're talking a guy with something like 40 NHL games, 50 NHL games to his name right now. He's just not totally polished, and he hasn't gotten all the details down yet. And it would be unfair to expect that of him. Even Cale Makar, who was the wonderkind, didn't have it all down right that early. So, but you're seeing with Bowen Byram a lot of growing pains, a lot of, hey, he flashes. He does something once a game where you're like, oh my goodness, this kid is going to be special. But it's not there yet. And when you have a guy of Devon Toews' caliber who can play next to Cale Makar, who produces elite results against elite competition, you have the ultimate kind of trump card in your back pocket. You have the league's best top line, you have the league's best top pairing, and you have a top 5 goaltender. Like, as long as those guys are healthy, and those are the guys that have been missing during this kind of lull where they struggled and lost 4 in a row. They didn't have Devon Toews. They haven't had Mikko Rantanen. They haven't had Gabe Landeskog. Rantanen's just back, and Landeskog won't return until game 1 of the postseason. Like, we saw the difference Devon Toews made in that Blues game. Like, he comes back in, and immediately everything just got better. he has that kind of cascading effect on the rest of the defense. It's a rising tide raises all boats kind of situation with him. And he's just an X factor for the defense. And Gabe Landeskog coming back in game 1 of the postseason. Look, there's no denying it's going to take a couple of games for him to be Gabe Landeskog again. And there's going to be rust, and there are going to be some moments where you're, whoa, what's going on here? So it'll be interesting to see how they balance that, what role he plays, what line he's on, what assignment he gets. But he knows what he's doing. They knew he's come back from long-term injuries before. Since they hired Sean Allaire as their skills coach a couple of years ago, they've done a much better job of getting guys prepared to return from injury with the drills and the off-ice training and everything that they've been doing. Guys come back ready to play a lot faster than previously because of the impact of the skills coach.
Okay, so with that in mind, with Gabe Landeskog perhaps needing a few games to get back to being Gabe Landeskog, and of course, you always want to think about this in general, and no, this might be a question you might not love, but give me one team you wouldn't mind facing in the first round and one team you really don't want to face the first round.
Well, and this is tough to answer because as of us recording this, we we still have uncertainty about playoff positions. So I would still say that your biggest concern look like the Avs have struggled against the Dallas Stars head to head the last couple of years. So I guess if you wanted to say that you were afraid of a team, it could be them. Like Joe Pavelski is weirdly like an elite player against Colorado only, and he's a very good player against everybody else, but has just this weird, like he is destined to destroy Avalanche dreams, having been on two different teams that beat them in game 7s with San Jose 3 years ago and the Stars 2 years ago. So you don't want to invite Captain America into your house to see what he can do to your living room when he gets mad, right? Like it's really not the situation you want to mess with. But you do look at the other option. Nashville is UC Saros healthy? Their starting goaltender gets hurt the last week of the season. They're a team that has outplayed their on ice kind of play. Their results have outpaced sort of the level of play that they've put on. Their highest scores are all riding really, really high unsustainable percentages. And these are all things that have a pretty consistent track record of coming crashing down on teams in the postseason when you're only against good teams. And when things just stop breaking your way. You don't win a Stanley Cup. You don't win multiple playoff rounds just by getting lucky. Everyone hits the wall eventually where you have to be good. And I don't think that the Nashville Predators, we've for such a long time, we've associated them with high level defense and great goaltending. And UC Saros has been really good this year. He's had a really terrible month, and now he's hurt. So now you're wondering, even if he comes back, is he the UC Saros that you're afraid of, or is he the UC Saros that's been getting lit up every third night? The Nashville Predators, they're a one-line team, a true one-line team. And once you start to get beyond that, you can chip away at them, especially when you're as deep defensively as Colorado is, and they aren't. The Predators aren't deep on defense anymore. They've just hemorrhaged too much talent over the years and they try and play an up-tempo enough style and not the muck and grind and chase and dump and chase and forecheck and grind it out kind of style that the Avs have struggled with in previous years. If Nashville wants to skate, Colorado is thrilled to get the free pass into round 2 against them, because I don't think it would be a very competitive series. They just don't. The Nashville just does not match up well against Colorado, and Colorado has to be licking their chops at the possibility of the Preds.
Well, obviously the Avalanche are good as of time recorded this. Again, 118 points, tied for the most since the 2000-2001 team, which won the Stanley Cup. What makes you feel different or perhaps better about this team at this point compared to last year and the year before? And both those teams obviously had a lot of hype and a lot of expectations going into the postseason as well. What's different?
Well, what we've seen is that they've won in significantly different ways this year. Instead of just pounding teams with shots and scoring chances and burying them, they have come from behind. They've won when they were playing their C-level game. They have won when their stars weren't there. They've won different, instead of being a team that imposes their will and plays their style and wins the game and then loses when the other team gets their style of game. The Avs have been more comfortable than ever in all styles of game. Whatever game they happen to be in, they're okay to play in. They've been able to succeed. They've been able to thrive against all levels of teams throughout the NHL. Good, bad, everything in between, all of them. They've been able to play different styles and adapt to the situations that they've been in, and instead of being stuck in, we're only good at this thing. They've been good at lots of things. They've had a lot of comeback wins this year. They've been able to show a different kind of killer instinct and a different kind of personality. And to be honest, they're just more well-rounded. They're better built for a postseason run. I think a guy like Nico Sturm is a really underrated addition to the club because he swaps out some of that skill element that you saw with Tyson Jost and brings more of your classic grinder role, bigger, more physical guy that plays a heavier style that's a little more miserable to play against and is a better fit in that role. And I think it just makes them more well-rounded. Arturi Lehkonen and Josh Manson both really like to get after it. And, Manson is just one of the league's most miserable players to play against. He's very physical. And he's in a 7-game series. You get to game 5 and that guy has been taking your lunch money for a week and a half now. You're just kind of over it. You don't want to deal with the bully on the playground anymore. And that's what they got in a guy like Josh Manson. It's imperfect. Like, he's your classic defensive defenseman. It's going to cause you some problems with the puck, but he makes life miserable. And the Avs had gotten a little too easy to play against. And I think that that's not true this year.
And Steve, oh, sorry. Steve,
yeah, I'm here. I'm here now. Sorry, boys. I was doing some important journalism things. And let's just claim it was that. Let's just claim it was that. AJ, number one, I would love to compliment you on that hat. It is the coolest thing I've seen today, maybe in the last week. I love it. I wanted to jump in. I love you talking about Josh Manson. I've been really impressed with him since the beginning. Wondering number one, has Sturm scored yet for the Avs? I thought so. My wife and I were arguing about that last night. She thought
he had a goal taken away.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
He's been noticeable, extremely noticeable on that ice without scoring for the Avalanche at all, which I think is impressive.
The big thing with Sturm is that the Blues game is the first time he was actually in the role he's going to play in the postseason, where he was the 4th line center. He'd been overplayed in the 3rd line up until that point. That game against St. Louis was the first time we really got to see him in the role he's actually going to play, and he thrived. And I don't think that's an accident, because that's exactly what he was brought in to do. That's exactly what he's going to bring them in the postseason.
All right. So, by the way, I'm going to back things up here for a quick second. Steve Staeger is our unofficial 9 News Avalanche insider, diehard season ticket holder, big fan all around. AJ is a real expert from the press box. Steve, AJ and I were just chatting about this before he hopped on in. AJ saying he's not overly concerned about the 4-game losing streak that the Avalanche had before they won on Wednesday night. How concerned are you, and how do you feel about this team overall heading into the postseason now?
I tend to follow whatever AJ says, because I think AJ is one of the brightest minds in the press box. So if he's not worried, I'm not as worried. I will tell you that I was being a typical fan, that after watching these guys drop 4 games, I had sudden deja vu to watching the same team that we saw last year against Las Vegas in that round that just seemed to completely deflate. And I think you and I were talking in the newsroom yesterday, Chris, about the idea that I've noticed that this team plays based on emotion and based on momentum. And I feel like they've had a lot of momentum in this season, obviously setting a franchise record, score or winning the most games that this franchise has ever done in a regular season. I was a little nervous that the old Yippee Avalanche were coming out in the last 4 games. That's just what I noticed.
And like time will tell, right? Like maybe they go into the first round, they get smoked, and I look like a moron because that's just how predicting the future goes. But I'm not concerned about it. In games that they don't care about, everything has been building towards the postseason. What they do starting next week is really going to be what we remember about this year.
Who do we want them to play?
Nashville.
So we want the Stars to play well in the next couple, get some points, and see if they can jump Nashville in the standings.
Yeah, and it would help. Colorado beating Nashville would set it up so that that's possible.
It would also help with the Norris race between Roman Josi and Cale Makar.
We'll see what voters prioritize. We'll see how much of it really is just a beauty contest with points. So,
all right. So, final question I want to get before we get on out of here for both of you guys. With AJ being the brilliant mind that Steve described, Steve self-described as a fan. It's a big question. What ends up happening? How good do we feel about this Avalanche team heading into what is, I would assume Stanley Cup or bust situation here, right?
Sure. I mean, if it's bust, then next year will be the same thing. I feel great about it. They're the best team in the West by a country mile, and I would say that if they're not a top 3 team in the NHL, then I would be stunned. That doesn't give them a free pass. They have to win 3 rounds to get to a final, but I think that they're the team best built to do it, and they're the team that I trust to get it done. I think that they're just the best, and they don't really have a true roadblock other than themselves this year. So exercising demons is a huge part of winning a Stanley Cup, and if you can't get past the emotional and mental hurdles of it, then you aren't meant to win a cup anyway. So we're gonna see what their emotional mettle really is this postseason, because there were excuses the last couple of years in which they lost that you could easily apply. And last year they just got beat. They just got flat out. They got their teeth kicked in, and how they respond to that this year will be part of their legacy forever. And it's up to them. They get to write their own story. So talent wise, Joe Sakic's done everything. Now it's up to them.
I want to ask AJ about the idea if this team does not go beyond the second round, does Jared Bednar have a job?
Yep.
You think he does?
Yep.
Like I love the man. I think he's fantastic. I think he's done wonderful things. He's taken them from a 48 point season. 48 point. I knew it was 48. He took him from 48 points to turn him around in the playoffs. And this is the 5th straight year they've been in the playoffs. I mean, that says something about a head coach. I've always thought that their failures have really nothing to do with what he's done behind the bench. I think it's like AJ said, that they get in their own head, and exercising that demon will be really important. I really like that term. I haven't heard it like that before.
Yeah.
I would agree with you 100%. I do think that there is an attitude in this town this year that it's Stanley Cup or bust, but I also think it's kind of been like that the last few years.
Yeah. I mean, there are expectations when you have players that are as good as what they have. There are expectations, and the previous regime of the golden era Avs lived up to those expectations. Now one of them is running the team. So fair or not, that's the legacy they're trying to live up to. And, that's life. Go win a cup.
Well, I was just to say, and the question is like you're running out of runway, right? Like you've got this amazing team, and yes, you have pieces of it for a long time, but you have assembled like the A team right now. I don't see it getting much better than this. And if you don't do something now, you're going to start to lose pieces of that, and it's not going to be as pretty as it was.
That's how it goes, man.
Well, I guess we'll find out next week. And at least starting next week. So Steve Staeger, 9 News, Avalanche aficionado.
I apologize for being like 10 minutes late. That's
it's okay.
That's on me.
And by the way, AJ Haefele from DNVR and from the Avalanche DNVR podcast, which I hear amazing things about. Thanks so much for joining us as well.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure, guys.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate
AJ,
it.
you're the best. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see you.